Management moves the pieces, leadership moves the people. Without the people, nothing moves. So here's my challenge to you. If you feel like you're pushing a process uphill, stop pushing and start leading the people. Because when the people move, good things happen. G'day everyone, and welcome to another episode of Lead on Purpose. My name's James Middleton, and over the past 20 years, I've led teams of all shapes and sizes across the Australian Air Force and the private sector. From complex operational environments to high-trust industries where precision, accountability, and purpose truly matter. These days, I help organizations build ethical, purposeful leadership at every level. I also help you become the leader that you want to be. I explore real-world leadership challenges, bring you inspiring stories from experienced leaders, and give you practical strategies to help you lead with confidence, clarity, and purpose. Today, we're exploring a question I get asked all too often. What's the real difference between management and leadership? Because on paper, they look similar and are often conflated, which only adds to the confusion. But in reality, they're fundamentally different. And if you want better results, stronger relationships, and less frustration, you need to understand the difference. So let's get into it. The simplest definition I've ever used to explain the difference between management and leadership is management moves the pieces, leadership moves the people. Both have value, both serve a purpose, but without the people, the pieces don't move. Management focuses on processes and systems, things like timelines and reporting. Leadership focuses on humans, their motivation, influence, and trust. And in high trust industries like defense, security, engineering, or medical, people power the organization. People make the processes happen. Their decisions have consequences. Their behavior sets the standard. When the people thrive, the processes enable action, accountability, and success. When the people struggle, no process will save you. Most business schools teach management. Very few develop leadership. You learn planning and forecasting, reporting, compliance. You learn about risk management processes. But leadership, that ability to influence, inspire, and elevate people, that often gets treated as a soft skill, something you'll pick up along the way. But leadership is anything but soft. Leadership is the force multiplier. A little while back, I took over a large team with a pretty rough history. Turnover was constant, and people weren't just leaving for better opportunities, they were leaving because they couldn't stand the culture anymore. And when I first stepped into that environment, I started hearing the same thing over and over again from different leaders. We've got bad eggs. Watch out for these ones. Or that team just isn't up to scratch. There was one person in particular who had just been placed on a formal performance improvement plan. And because I was the new leader, that plan was now mine to execute and monitor. And look, the HR process had been followed perfectly. Everything was documented. Every checklist was complete. Every box had been ticked. But here's what I realized after a quick chat. This person had absolutely no idea what the standard actually looked like. No idea why they were being asked to do certain tasks. No context, no purpose, no connection to the bigger mission. They were being told repeatedly, you're not meeting the standard. But no one had ever shown them what good looked like, why their work mattered, or how their role contributed to something bigger than themselves. As I pulled on that thread, I realized it wasn't just them. The entire team didn't really understand what they were there to do, let alone why they were doing it. So the process, the plans, the reporting, all of those management things, all it really did was track people heading in the wrong direction, just with more detail. So instead of kicking off another performance meeting, I sat down with this person, one-on-one over a coffee. No forms, no templates, just a conversation. And I asked, what do you understand about your role here and how it fits into the bigger picture? They shrugged. They honestly didn't know, and that was the root cause of the problem. Performance was only a symptom. That conversation gave me absolute clarity on what I needed to do next. The team needed connection to the bigger picture. Because once they understood the why, once we were all clear on what good actually looked like, their performance improved. Not because the performance management process worked, but because leadership did. And that team didn't need more forms or flowcharts. They needed more meaning. So, how can you shift from managing the pieces to leading the people? Here are 3 behavioural shifts that you can make today. And for each one, I've included a specific, practical first step that you can use in your very next conversation. Shift from process to purpose. One of the biggest traps leaders fall into, especially in complex environments, is believing that better process will fix people problems. We update the procedures, we examine workflows, we add another checkpoint or approval step. Then we sit back and wonder why nothing changes. Process without purpose just makes people feel policed, not empowered. When my team didn't understand the why, every process felt like unnecessary red tape. The standards made no sense and the tasks, they had no meaning. And the performance conversations felt like punishment, not opportunity for improvement. Because no one had ever connected the dots to the bigger mission. The moment I brought purpose into the conversation, the moment I said, this is why this matters, everything started to shift. People suddenly had context, they had direction, they had something to care about. Before you explain how something must be done, slow down. Explain why it matters. For your next one-on-one conversation, try saying, before we talk about the task, let's talk about why this work is important. Just start there. You'll see a difference immediately. Shift from delegating to developing. A lot of managers think they're delegating, but what they're really doing is offloading. Here's the task, here's the deadline, here's the checklist. That's not delegation. Delegation is an opportunity to develop the next generation of leaders. It's not about handing off work. It's about handing over ownership and giving people what they need to turn that ownership into results. When I took over that team, I realized people weren't growing because no one had ever invested in their capability. They were being told what to do, but not why it mattered. Not what good looked like. Not what to do when they needed help or guidance. And definitely not how their strengths could help shape their path forward. So I started shifting the conversation. Instead of saying, here's the task, it's due back to me in a week, I'd say, here's the outcome we need. How do you think we should approach it? That starts a conversation. That opens the door to development. It gives people room to think, to solve problems, and to build confidence. Delegate outcomes, not tasks. Give people the space and support to grow, not just instructions to follow. In your next planning meeting, ask, what part of this do you want to take the lead on? And how can I help support you? You'll be surprised how quickly people put their hand up to take on the biggest challenges because they will see it as an opportunity to grow rather than a chance to fail. Shift from control to connection. This might be the most important. When we feel pressure, deadlines, budgets, risk, our instinct is to grip tighter, to control the variables, to monitor every step, to make sure the work gets done. But here's the paradox. The tighter you grip, the less people can move. Control creates fear. Connection builds trust and encourages people to take initiative. When I really started sitting down with people in my team to get to know them, to understand them, it all became so clear. The performance issues made sense. The frustrations became visible. And suddenly, it wasn't the team versus leadership. We were partners working towards the same goal. Connection isn't a soft skill. It's a strategic enabler. People don't perform for leaders who control them. They perform because they feel connected to each other and feel trusted by leaders. For your next progress update chat, simply ask, how are you going? And don't let them get away with, yeah, good. Be curious and ask more questions. Show them that you actually want to know, that you care. That moment of genuine curiosity starts building the foundation of connection and trust. Management is essential, particularly in complex environments where data and information are critical to progress. But leadership is transformational. Management moves the pieces, leadership moves the people. And without the people, nothing moves. So here's my challenge to you. If you feel like you're pushing a process uphill, stop pushing and start leading the people. Because when the people move, good things happen. To shift from managing the pieces to leading the people, shift from process to purpose. Because no matter how good your workflows are, process without purpose only makes people feel controlled, not empowered. When you slow down and explain why the work matters, people gain context, direction, and something to care about. Then they can start moving in the same direction without you having to drag them along. Shift from delegating to developing. Delegation isn't handing off tasks. It's handing over ownership and giving people what they need to turn that ownership into results. When you delegate outcomes and involve people in the how, you're not just getting work done, you're growing capability and investing in the next generation of leaders. Shift from control to connection, because the tighter you grip, the less people can move. Real leadership isn't about monitoring every step. It's about knowing your people, understanding their challenges, and building the trust that gives them the confidence to take initiative and rise to the occasion. People don't move because of process. They move because they understand the purpose, they feel supported to grow, and they feel connected to something bigger than themselves. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Lead on Purpose. If today's episode gave you something to think about or a light bulb moment, let me know about it down in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share this episode with someone who's ready to become a better leader. Remember, leadership isn't a title, it's a choice. So make that choice and continue leading on purpose. My name's James, and I'll see you next time.